If you are curious how you can create a Delphi application that uses data centrally stored in the cloud and manipulate that data from a grid, then this video is for you, as we are going to demonstrate how you can use StellarDS.io to centrally store your data in the cloud and how you can connect that with our FNC Data Grid to view the data, edit the data, and perform filtering, grouping, and so on that data. This is an almost zero-code solution, as we are using here the Delphi T dataset concept, the dataset that will offer us a communication to the StellarDS.io data in the cloud service. And as this is an FNC component, the FNC Data Grid can be used in a Windows VCL application, but at the same time it can also be used in a cross-platform FireMonkey application running on Windows, Android, macOS, Linux, iOS, and also actually on a web client application. Let's first discover what we can do with StellarDS.io, and then we will move to the sample application that we created that you can also download and explore for yourself, the sample application that uses our FNC Data Grid. First, let's have a look at StellarDS.io. So here we have our StellarDS.io data in the cloud service. You can create a free account on this service and explore and test yourself. I have already created an account, so all I need to do is log in on my account, and from my account I can see what I already have in data in my account. And so that starts with the tables. Here is an overview of all the tables that I already have, and also an overview of the many applications that I have. And the applications are the way to communicate from your client application to the StellarDS.io cloud data service, and that can be either via OAuth authentication flow or via using a direct API key. What we want to do for this demo to connect StellarDS.io with our FNC Data Grid is work with a products table, food products in this case, and we have this at this moment offline in a JSON file that is a file of 500 different food products, and you can see here the structure of this data for each food product. We have name, category, price, weight, and so on stored in the JSON file. And so the first thing to do will be to create that table on StellarDS.io and to import our data into StellarDS.io. So what we can do is create a new table that will be the products table, and let's say that this concerns food products, and this way we have created our table. You can see it here, the products table. And so what we can do from here is add all the fields that we need in our products table, and we have to set up the database schema first before we can import the data from the JSON file into this table in StellarDS.io. So if we have a look at our data structure, the ID field is something that is automatically available and created in StellarDS.io, but the other fields, name, category, price, and so on, of course, these do not exist by default, and these we have to create in our StellarDS.io table. So we can do this step by step. That would be name, that is a string field. Here you can see all the fields that we have in a StellarDS.io table. So going from big int boolean blob datetime to a string field, the nvarchar field, and we can add it this way. Next field to add is category, that is also a string field. Then we have price, that is a float field, and we can go on till the complete table or the complete schema for our table is created. So having this completed, we can now see our products table with the complete schema defined. We see all the fields that we also have in our JSON file. We see these fields defined, configured in our stellards.io table products. So next task to do is to import this JSON file into this stellards.io products table, and to launch our import application, all we need to do is change the URL to the import application, and you can see that I'm still logged in. So that means that I can see all the tables that I have in my account on this import application. And you can also see the products table here. You can see, obviously, it's still empty, and it has all the fields that I had defined in for my schema. So the next thing to do is to import the JSON file. So I go to the folder where this JSON file is. This is my JSON file. I can simply drop it into this area, and you can see here all the fields that were found in my JSON file. And here on the right side, you see the fields that are found in the products table on stellards.io. So now it's a matter of linking what JSON field should be linked with what field in our products table in the stellards.io database. And so as I named all the fields identically, it's a matter of simply linking each of these fields from the JSON file to the stellards.io table, and so that will be finished in a moment. Just picking each field and perform the linking. If we do not link some specific field, obviously it will not be imported via this tool. So everything is linked now. The ID is not linked because the ID is a unique field, and it is automatically generated unique field in our stellards.io table. So everything is linked up now and is ready to be imported. It asks if I'm sure to perform this import, and I am ready. I can import it. And if we now look under tables, it is still busy performing the import at this moment, but now I can go under tables, and I can see all the data, 500 different food products that have been imported. I can also verify that or double check that when I go to my account panel under tables, and I go and look under products. Here under data, we see the same data in a paged form. You can see 500 records that have been imported into stellards.io. And with that, everything is ready to hook up this data to an FNC Data Grid in a Delphi application. So let's move to Delphi and work with our FNC Data Grid and our stellards.io dataset to connect both together so that I can start viewing and editing the data in our Delphi application. So here we are in our Delphi 13 IDE, and we have created a cross-platform FireMonkey application for you. You can actually download the full source code from this application from the link here under this video, so you can play with it for yourself. Central in this application is our FNC Data Grid. You can see it here on the form. And to perform the connection to our stellards.io account, here we use the three essential components, which is the Stellar Data Store dataset, connected to the data source via the dataset property, and the data source is connected to our FNC Data Grid database adapter via the data source property. The database adapter itself is connected to our FNC Data Grid via the adapter property. The configuration of our data store data set is done in code. So let's have a look at the setup in code. So what is happening here is that we need to configure this data set to perform the authentication via an OAuth authorization and authentication flow, and that is done via the dataset authentication client ID property, authentication secret property, and authentication callback property. Remember that these are settings that you perform in the application settings from your stellards.io account, and that takes care of doing a secure OAuth flow based authentication and authorization. When the authentication and authorization is successful, it comes down to configuring the dataset to use the data from the proper table in our stellards.io account. And that is configured with the table property. We set it here, the table name to the products table in our stellards.io account. Some further configuration you can see here. We enable sorting, filtering, some configuration regarding grouping is done, and actually the further important step here is that after the authentication and authorization, when we have established a successful REST API connection to our stellards.io account, then our data set is opened, the data is fetched, the data is available, and we can do from the data set after open further customization in our grid. One of the customizations that we do is make the field names that appear in each column title, make these a little bit more user friendly. For example, here we change the field name storage underscore type to a more user-friendly storage name. We also apply some HTML formatting to the display label to make that also more user-friendly, as well as specifying some images in the column title cells to visualize the type of the data that is shown in these columns. You can see here that we adapt the width of the columns in the data grid somewhat. And here an important one is that we change the order of the columns also somewhat. We have actually 3 Boolean fields in our table. The is organic, is vegan, and is gluten-free. But if you remember in our stellards.io account, these fields were not sitting together, so the is vegan is actually the last field in our table, while the other Boolean fields are here, the is organic and is gluten-free. And so with getting this column and changing its index, so the order in the data grid, to 12, we ensure that these 3 Boolean fields sit nicely together in our FNC data grid. And finally, we also configure stretching in our grid so that all the column widths are proportionally adapted, changed to fit the available width in our form for our grid. And when the data is available, we will also perform grouping on our data grid. The grouping here is performed on column 2, which happens to be our category column. Let's run this application to see everything in action. So here is our FireMonkey application, and when I perform connect, it will perform an OAuth cycle. Actually here it immediately shows the data, otherwise it should have shown the OAuth login screen, but from previous authorization and authentication cycles, it already persisted the access token in an ini file, reuses this, and this way it immediately can show the data in our data grid. You can see here the 3 Boolean fields next to each other and an image in the column title to make it more clear what is visualized. You can also see the grouping that happened on column 2, so I can open and close these groups via these nodes in our FNC data grid. What is also available is filtering, so I can click the filter icon, remove all columns, and for example filter and only show the farm fresh products or show the green harvest products. So with filtering I can immediately and automatically have everything filtered as I want. What is also here noteworthy is that in the stock column I have some cells that are marked red, and if you pay attention you can see that the cells in red are cells with values lower than 100. How that is done is by dynamically applying a specific cell color and font color depending on the data in these cells. So what we do for that is implement the on-cell layout event of our FNC data grid. This event is triggered for every displayed cell, and we are going to look at column 7. 7 is the column of the stock field. We fetch the value of that column and we check if it's lower than 100 or not. If it's lower than 100, we set this cell in red with a white font. So other than this, we see the data visualized now, the data that is in our stellards.io account in the products table, but with the data grid we can also automatically manipulate this information. So for example, I check here all 3 checkboxes for the first product, which is the artisan brioche bun. I have checked them and I will commit these now to our stellards.io products table. And so when I close my application and restart my application, reconnect to this data, you will see that here, as you can see, the 3 checkboxes are on. So that means, or that indicates, that we have effectively worked live with the data in our stellards.io account, and by working via this application live on the data, any other application that would also connect live to the same data would see the same changed data. So we really have a central database that we directly manipulate from our FNC data grid. And so with that, I think this is a powerful demonstration of how, with minimum effort, you can take advantage of both our FNC data grid as a tool to visualize, edit, filter, and sort the data in any way you want, and do that in combination with our stellards.io data in the cloud service. And with using that service, you no longer have to bother about all the complexities that come with hosting your data in a central server. You can take advantage of all of that was done for you in the stellards.io service. This full application, as I mentioned, is available. The source code, download it from the link below this video. You can set up your stellards.io account for free. This, for example, this data all fits into the free model, so you can play with it. You can import the JSON data that we will also include in the download link. Import that data yourself in your own stellards.io account and experiment with our FNC data grid in a VCL application, a FireMonkey application, and finally also in a web core web client application, all produced with the Delphi IDE, Delphi language, as you are used to. So I hope you liked the video. If you want to stay tuned for more videos, don't forget to subscribe here also below this video, the subscribe button. And if you liked the video, don't forget to like it. See you next time for more interesting content on our FNC Data Grid, our StellarDS.io service, and the many other components that we offer at tmssoftware.com. Thank you.